Okay, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. Well, without much ado, jumping straight into business, it's a Monday. Where should we go today? We thought we'd look at the whole matter of the re-engineering of Nigeria. Let me say again, but it's not a conversation that's going to go away anytime soon. It is also known as a restructuring. And recently, the vice president, if you recall, got into something of a tizzy, that is, as far as commentary was concerned, because of some speculation that he had dismissed the whole idea of restructuring out of hand. This has prompted the vice president's office to put out a transcript of the program on which he was quoted, and there are significant differences between what might have thought to have been and what actually is, according to the transcript that was provided. So the vice president has sort of corrected the impression that he's against restructuring, but he has said that we need to be precise, unambiguous when we use the word restructuring. What exactly does it mean? Because if it means going back to the regions, if it means piecing ourselves up along ethnic lines, then, according to the vice president, I'm not part of that. But if it means fiscal federalism, yeah, I'm down with that. If it means a lot of other things, it's okay. If it means fiscal responsibility, everything is okay, but not dividing along local lines. He also feels, as you will know by now, that this is not anything that needs to be written into our constitution, that it's something that should be left to the political parties to decide upon, in a political matter. So there's all of that, but as you can imagine, there's a lot more. And we want to hear from you what you think about the matter. We're kicking it off from the studio. We have a panel in the studio to look at this particular subject. In that regard, we're very happy to have a former Chief Whip of the Federal House of Representatives and Chair of Afenifere Renewal Group, Honorable Wale Osun. Thank you very much for coming on the program, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Indeed, our pleasure.
Thank you.
And we also have this morning Alhaji Hassan Abdul Aziz Sani. Alhaji Hassan is a public commentator and opinion molder as well. He also studied mass communication. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yori.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
If I could start with you, Honorable Wale Osun, because you've been in the game, if one can call it that, for quite a while. I'm talking about the polity and the political scene of the country as a person and also institutionally. Give me your overview thoughts on the necessity or otherwise for what is called the restructuring of Nigeria.
Well, restructuring, if you take the literary meaning of it, used to be associated with economic issues. When you have corporate failures, when you have corporate problems, and you need to rejig, the company to stay afloat. So later it has interpretational mode for political development as well. That is that when a country or a system is in trouble and can come the arm's way, is in trouble and there is harm confronting that system or a country, then you start talking of restructuring. That is getting right those things that are causing the trouble, those things that can bring the country to the harm's way. It's a preemptive kind of measure. Okay. It's not meant to be, an afterthought. And that is why, for instance, one would disagree seriously with the vice president, because then it has to be constitutional in many respects.
Okay. So that aspect where he said it doesn't need
it has to be constitutional.
Put down in black and white in our constitution.
And most of the time, restructuring stems from a public demand for it. Like after the 1922, I think Clifford Constitution, or what you call the Legal Council and all that, the Nigerians at that time, educated Nigerians, started clamoring for greater participation. And then, so it would have to be constitutional.
Okay. So
it
you
would have to be
disagree with
demanded.
the VP on that particular point?
But precisely.
That it's not necessary for it to be included in the Constitution?
Essentially, it would have to be constitutional.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, it would have to be.
Alhaji Hassan, now, coming on from that point, the Vice President also noted, although this is not really a critique or commentary on the Vice President's TV appearance at the time, but it's like taking issues from there and using them to, continue the conversation. And he had said that in any case, constitutions around the world are usually put together by a relatively small elite, a small elite group, and that the ordinary, the common man, doesn't really have very, very much to do with the matter, even though everybody is now bound by it. I wonder how relevant you think that particular thought is to the conversation.
Yeah, with due respect to our Vice President, Mr. Yemi Osinbajo, he made a very good remark over it, and he made a very good thought of it. I know him as a man of no lazy thought, and he looked at it very well. He's a legal luminary, a highly respected legal luminary.
And a constitutional lawyer.
A constitutional lawyer. And a criminal lawyer also. He looked at it from the angle that by the time you make it constitutional, you make it operational. And this is a very serious issue.
Wait a minute. I just want to get that sentence. You are saying that you think the Vice President meant that if you make it constitutional, you therefore make it operational as well. And that is what the Vice President...
And that is a serious issue. You see, we see things different ways. The restructuring means different things to different people.
Which is the point the Vice President also made, that we cannot afford to be vague when having this conversation as to what exactly restructuring means.
Look, you see, everything has its own historical antecedents in Nigeria. The restructuring, the clamoring for restructuring, started during the military era, more especially during Babangida's regime, when the elite in the Southwest began to see the lopsidedness in the political leadership. And it now progresses up till today. Some people are still clamoring for it. You see, we have different types of Nigerians. Some Nigerians wanted restructuring to go back to the olden days of regionalism, not taking into cognizance that Nigeria is not a Nigeria of yesteryears again. Mm-hmm. If Chief Obafemi Awolowo of blessed memory is going to be back today, and Chief Alhaji Sardauna Ahmadu Bello Sokoto and Chief Michael Opara are to be back today, they are going to meet a different Nigeria, a different set of people. And anything leadership is about people. Nigerians have moved away from regional system. I'm sorry to say this
in that
on
sense,
air.
You're on the same page with the Vice President.
I'm on the same page with Mr. President.
With Mr. President, yes, and the Vice President who spoke about it most recently.
What we wanted to do.
That nobody, according to the Vice President, really wants to return Nigeria to regionalism, because he's equating regionalism with dividing Nigeria along ethnic lines.
Thank you. Let me expatiate more about it.
Okay, let me come back to you.
Okay,
let me come back to you, because I see that...
But that's an interesting concept. Mm-hmm. The truth is this. He had spoken about Ahmadu Bello, Awolowo, Azikiwe. If they are alive today, I am sure that they would also have been talking of a restructured Nigeria that takes into consideration the basic differences. We must not assume that these are people who are the same. When I say the same, that share the same cultural values, religious values, but essentially ethnic values. Basically, human beings are defined by certain things as to who they are, who they worship, what values that they hold there.
And what differentiates them
from other people. And when you have that, they are bound to react to issues differently at all times. It is not that there would always be issues of unity, because every country, of course, must be united around certain objectives. But then, how they approach certain issues would also be defined by who they are. And their strength now is brought out clearly by the diversity in those differences. The strength and the unity is now brought out by the diversity. But essentially, it must acknowledge, and that is why, even if Alhaji Ahmadu Bello were to be alive, he will still be talking in terms of protecting the interests of his people. And because that interest, essentially, look at when Zamfara, the former governor of Zamfara, introduced Sharia. And that, my first gut reaction, and that is the sustained gut reaction everywhere, that if 85% of the people believe strongly that they would rather have Sharia mode of governance, then you outside, because you are Christians or because you are Muslims outside who do not believe in that mode of governance, cannot dictate to them that they must not have Sharia. And you will see that, of course, the whole country initially, exploded. No, can he do it? Can he not do it? But he was determined to do it because that is what the people of his state would like to have. And it will be wrong for the people of your state to dictate to the people of Zamfara State how to run their lives. And that is the differences that must be managed in a country like this.
Well, thank you, Honorable Ali. Alhaji Hassan, is there not perhaps good reason for apprehensions by people thinking like the Vice President that the road Honorable Wale has sort of expatiated upon could lead us into the dangerous territory of ethnic divisions, or sort of coagulating ourselves, so to speak, along ethnic lines? Even as I understand fully what he's saying about what do the people of this environment want, but can't that possibly be taken to a dangerous extent where we begin to see ourselves as a separate entity?
You see, this issue of restructuring, I said it before, meant different things to different people. And I will emphasize it again.
But what does it mean to you? I'm interested to find that out.
What it meant to me is this. I saw three different groups of elites. The elite that emerges, some stood for justice, and that justice has elapsed for now because there's a power all over the country. Everybody is having a sense of belonging. That one has elapsed. Number two, we have some group of people that just decided to go their own way, to be heard, even while saying something irrelevant to the people. And the third group of people in Nigeria are the people that wanted the regionalism. They wanted it so that the power can come to their bedrooms. They are not doing it for the common good of anybody. Nigerians are not looking for any regional system. What Nigerians are looking for is a responsible government, a responsible leadership, a responsive leadership that will, listen to their yearnings and address it respectively.
No, listen to the yearnings or even know
the yearnings and listen to them
because,
and address it.
There's a sense in which people of a given family understand themselves best, which does not mean they cannot seek consultation.
I don't think there's any ethnic group in Nigeria that accommodate stealing. I think there's any group in Nigeria that accommodate misgovernance. I don't think there's any group in Nigeria that accommodate all sorts of vices. What we are all after, we have unity in one thing. Nigerian people are looking for a government laden with probity, transparency, and accountability. And luckily enough today, we are having one. This is the first time in Nigerian history where we got to know what is happening inside. Everything was beclouded before. We are getting to see things happening around us. Unlike other presidents, with due respect to President Obasanjo and late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, they tried their best. And General Absalom Abubakar also tried by handing over. And I wish to say it on air now. Even our former president, Goodluck Jonathan, I appreciate him for conceding defeat and for coming on air to admit it and even congratulate his opponent. That is a big feat for him. But I know him is a weak leader. It is only in Nigeria where you cannot combine the two. You cannot be a good man and a good leader. You either take one of the two. You either be a good man and a bad leader, or a bad leader, a good man. Because in leadership, it's not about being nice, it's about being right.
And oftentimes, being right is going to cause pains. Well, it's an interesting point you bring up, because I'm going to bring it straight to Honorable Wale Osun. Him being a politician and practicing one, a veteran, that part about a bad leader and how did you put it?
A nice leader.
Yes.
A bad man.
Yes.
A good leader, a bad man.
Yes.
A bad man, a good leader.
That is a compromise that those of us that don't know books, let me put it like that, see politicians make all the while, mostly in the past, where you see a person and you wonder, what's he doing around this political edifice? And it turns out that because of certain other considerations, not very many of which have to do with merit or efficiency, have put certain people in certain places. You know it. We've seen it.
Well, but actually, there's an interesting concept there about leadership, quality of leadership, in whatever form. Whether you talk of the presidential system, the regional system that is so much averse to, even when you talk of autocracy, you will still find a definition of who a good leader is, who a bad leader is. But what defines, at the end of the day, the sum total of the benefit to the people that is being ruled, that is being governed, what defines it are the rules. And here, and this is why we cannot run away all the time from the issue of the constitutional arrangements that bring a people together. Whether you're a good leader or a bad leader would also be defined by the rules. I mean, see what happened in Brexit in UK.
Yes.
The moment Brexit took effect after the vote, by leadership prescriptions, it is not written anywhere, but by leadership prescriptions, the Prime Minister offered to step down. Now, here you are talking of leadership response to a crisis. And this is what defines good leadership. What I'm then saying is that in any type of government, you will be able to define your good leader or bad leader. It's got nothing to do with the type of what we are speaking about. What we are speaking here is that there must be guiding institutions, guiding rules that will determine what a leader should do.
Okay, for instance,
that will prescribe a leader's actions.
I understand that, Honorable Wale. I understand that.
Yes.
The other thing that comes out of that for me that I'd like you to spend a few more seconds on is that the Vice President noted, not that it's exclusive to him, but it's an idea that he also reiterated. We also will then have to decide, won't we, on whether we need a federal government at all at the center. How is this going to be? Because he says he's an ardent supporter of sales tax being the exclusive preserves of the states, but he said fiscal, federalism, he's entirely for it.
Yes.
But then we also have to now decide how it is that we make sure the federal government doesn't go into oblivion.
No, it cannot go into oblivion because take it from 1946, Richard's Constitution, 1951, Macpherson. Now, when you look at the two that transited into regional form of governments, it still prescribed a fundamental role for the federal government. It is just that the regional governments have the power to act in the best interest of their people on all residual matters that fall within the issue. So what I'm then saying is that you will still need at any time, we all need that umbrella of a federal government that is, you know, prosperous, that can protect our interests, protect our territorial integrity, and when it speaks at the United Nations, it's respected. I mean, those are the functions of the federal government that we should have. It is not for the federal government to come to either Oshogbo or to Damaturu to build secondary schools. It can lay policies, but it is certainly, it lacks the competence to build health centers. And that is the restructurings that we are talking about, that even the corruption that we so much speak about is enabled because you have people putting their hands in issues that it lacks the capacity to handle.
Okay. And that it shouldn't really be its
function. That it should not be its function.
So,
but if it is to defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria, like Boko Haram and all other associated issues,
then it becomes a federal issue.
It becomes its issue. If it is to talk about Brexit in relation to Nigeria's interest, it becomes the issues of the federal government. But anything outside, the layout, general policies on tertiary education, it is not even the function of the federal government to build houses, because you as an individual and I as an individual can build our houses. But then general policies on the role of local governments in construction of houses, of the state governments in meeting housing needs, I think that is the kind of policies that they are supposed to do.
Alhaji Hassan, would you, are you on the same page there? Or are there significant differences?
I concur with Honorable Wale Oshun in some aspects, and I disagree with him on some aspects. You see, duplication always arises because of the inefficiency of the system. Let me take you down memory lane. During Abacha regime, there was this PTF because no activities going on, both in the federal, state, and local government. And he needed an intervention body that will make him, you know, to be acceptable to the people at that particular point in time. That was how PTF came into being. PTF intervened in almost all the facets of the economy. Health, education, what have you. And people saw it that time. You see, it's very easy for us to talk in Nigeria. The cheapest thing to do in Nigeria is to talk. But you see, let me go back again about Vice President, without digressing. Vice President said most of the talkings were made by the elites. The common men are not having an input, and the common men are the majority. The elites are the engineers of the current crisis we are having, are the molders, are the people that, you know, narcotize, privatize, and monopolize the opinion of the common man. We know it very well in Nigeria. That was why Mr. Vice President saw it all. Mr. Vice President is in a place now where he saw it all more than any one of us. He saw that what we need is a restructuring of mind, is spiritual regeneration, not regional system. We are retrogressing, we are going backward. We are to move forward. What we needed is quality leadership, qualitative leadership. Let Nigerians afford 3 square meals. Let Nigerians be able to send their children to school. Let Nigeria enjoy all the benefits of life. Governance is about general good. But people, a lot of people that are making noise, misconstrue government for accumulation of wealth and privileges. And they are doing that. And what they are doing among the people, I'm referring to north, south, west, and all over the place. Nigerian elites are not fair to us.
Which is another comment the Vice President has made, that there is federal character in corruption. He says he looks at any instance,
you understand,
and he finds that everybody is involved.
We are very selfish in Nigeria. Do you know why we are selfish? If we wanted to have a Green Eagle team today, we'll go for the best.
We should go for the best.
We go for the best. We don't go through this federal character. Because if you go through federal character, you will fail. But we go for the best. You see that you pick 3, 4, 5 players from a particular location. Because you are out to do what? you are out to achieve something.
And federal character is irrelevant at that point in time.
You see,
the fact that he's a Nigerian is more important.
You see, I'm not downplaying the importance of federal character. People should have a sense of belonging. We are all Nigerians. We are all equal before God and man. But one thing is very clear. When you have a crisis at hand, look for the best hands to handle it.
How?
Yes. But if I can just chip in, Nigeria is a big country, and I tell you, there is no part of the country where you cannot have good materials. If there's a limitation as to the scope, as to identifying the materials from each area, that's another issue. But there is no part of this country where that does not have capable people in all the fields, capable hands in all the fields, whether engineering, medicine, sociology. There is no part of the country. Yeah, so we must not deceive ourselves.
But at the same time, sir,
yes,
it's important that maybe those parts of the country that you've just alluded to,
yes,
the people that you're talking about might not have the political qualifications.
No, what is political qualification?
It's about being rightly connected, well connected.
Okay, if you are talking of being connected, but that is why those who speak about restructuring also speaks about modifying many things, whether it is the regionalization you are talking about, but also looking about what is now happening in the National Assembly, for instance, as to the need, in fact, to have a unicameral National Assembly, as to the need of looking at the concept of the British parliamentary model, in which before you become a minister, the chances are that you must have gone through the grills. You are not just a novice.
Yes.
What you now have are technocrats, supposedly technocrats, who cannot even relate to their environment, not to talk of the common people in the environment.
But this is fixable. But all of this is a fixable situation, right?
But
it can be fixed.
But they are fixable when you have constitutional arrangements that allow them.
Okay.
That allow them.
So that's why you said that you don't see how we're going to achieve this without being written into the Constitution.
Without going back. And that was how, for instance, up to the Independence Constitution, at every stage you will have people agitating, and then there will be a conference, constitutional conference, whether in London, in Ibadan, and all that, and then solutions will be found, and then the amendments will be taken.
Because the next question I was going to ask is that how are we going to achieve this objective? Alhaji Hassan, you had said that, there were areas in which you agree and there's some where you differ, but by and large, it's not an irrelevant issue. Now, how do we go about it? We've had one conference before. We understand from news reports that whereas it's there, it's not a priority at the moment. That's the quote we got. It's not a priority at the moment. So there are other things. How do we go about this? Are those conferences going to help us?
You take what is good within the confined, or what the members of the Constitutional Conference arrived at. You can't take all. Okay. Because, you see, we had legal luminaries, we had our traditional rulers from all sides of the country, we have opinion leaders, highly respected civil society group, including Femi Falana was there, and many other people. You see, we can't ignore what they said, but it's not for us to take it hook, line, and sinker. We are not going to take it that way.
Okay.
Because at times you see a rowdy session, you see people expressing their primordial sentiments, and there's no way we can take it from them.
Even if it gets into the Constitution, the something document.
And the mistake we are making in Nigeria is this: we always refer to Constitution. Constitution is there; it's a good document. You see, it's like a bill of quantity in construction. Every bill of quantity is a very, very good bill of quantity. Where you will see the difference is at the implementation level. What goes where? You understand? You will see a very nice, people will come out with very nice memoranda, come out with very nice submissions. But when it comes to, they said, a critic is a man who knows the road but cannot drive the car. You understand?
Okay, and you know what? I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to take a quick break now, but don't go anywhere, please, because we'll come back and then we'll include your calls as well. Well, thank you very much for staying with us. And we have, as you know, if we've been together from the top, we have Honorable Wale Oshun, former Chief Whip of the Federal House of Representatives and Chair of Afenifere Renewal Group, as well as Alhaji Abdul Aziz Hassan, or let me turn it the other way around, Alhaji Hassan Abdulaziz Zani. He's a graduate of mass communications, an entrepreneur, and a public commentator. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on. Honorable Wale Oshun, the point we left on, which is, how do we now go about this quest?
Yes.
And I don't know if you were a member of the Constitutional Conference that held in the Jonathan era.
I was.
So what are your recommendations? Because as you know, there are people who say that they don't really care two figs for that particular arrangement. And there are those who are saying that, no, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, but that's an interesting thing because, like he said earlier, that particular conference had in its membership, as participants, the broad spectrum of Nigerians, the Junai Muhammad from Kano, and you had the Clark from Bayelsa, and you had eminent traditional rulers, emirs, kings. So,
you know, like custodians of the traditions of the people.
Custodians of the people. And then you have the professionals as well. And of course, a young lady who just turned 22 from Adamawa, I think.
Representing the youth.
Yes, representing the youths. So it was a good spectrum of Nigerians. And there were heated debates, heated discussions. And for the first time, you had decisions or recommendations, if you call it. But some of us who would regard ourselves as the constitutionalists would think that, okay, what we have here is the voice of the people. But then this was by a government that was outgoing, and it had turned, as he should have done, its report to the incoming government. Now, my thinking is this, that the incoming government should have immediately set up a small team of Nigerians to look at those views in its entirety. Now, there are issues. There were those who believed that the report should have been seized with the National Assembly, who should have the powers to enact the Constitution as already laid down. But then there were some of us who do believe that what you had coming from that conference, one so fundamental and so varied that it would be beyond of the sitting National Assembly, and that what could have taken place is the prerogative of the president in asking for a referendum, to look at the report in its totality, reject what has to be rejected, and accept what has to be accepted. But the important thing is that a country that is afflicted in the way we have been afflicted, and you see the afflictions growing daily, there is absolutely no reason why our economy should be comatose.
Okay.
Because of the diversity that we have.
I hear you. But you don't have the apprehension that regionalists' calls could lead to, quite frankly, an ethnic splintering of the country?
Absolutely no.
Okay.
Because let me tell you this, if you go across the spectrum of those who came, hardliners, softliners, But what came across was the resolution that Nigeria, as a big country, as an umbrella on all of us, is desired as the ultimate goal.
Okay. Mr. George from Ikeja, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to your panelists.
Thank you.
Uncle Yori, I am really getting sick and tired of this daily calls for restructuring, as if the structure is our problem. Is it the structure that is not putting food on our table? Is it the structure that is not making our roads not to be passable? Is it the structure that is not allowing people to have good schools to go? I do not agree with the latest arguments and calls for restructuring. What we need is good governance and people with integrity that can deliver us from our wounds. These people were in government at one time or the other. It is when they are out of government or they do not have access to power, they begin to call for restructuring. Uncle Yori, I can tell you that what they are actually asking for is separation and a division. If we are to go into that restructuring the way I am seeing it, it will lead to, I don't know what to call it, disintegration. And no president will allow Nigeria to disintegrate in his hands. Even the previous president, President Jonathan, gave that command to the conference the gentleman on the left is talking about, that you must not discuss that area. You mustn't talk about that area. And when they are talking about constitutional conference, that constitutional conference in question, I am aware that it had no legal backing. People were selected, they were not elected by their people to represent them. And the outcome had no legal backing. Those who even constituted it, those who participated in it, when the report was out, it was with President Jonathan for 9 months. He did not execute a single item in it, including the ones that did not require legislation. How come now that election is won by somebody, and that is the time everybody is coming out, restructure? I believe that our problem does not lie in the structure. Our problem lies in the character of the people governing us.
All right, then.
Where we should lay the emphasis.
All right, then. Thank you. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. There you go, Alhaji Hassan. A contributor to the conversation thinks that this whole call for restructuring is something of a booby trap, really, for this administration.
You see, Mr. George has said it all. It's a hidden agenda of some. And people are not after restructuring.
You don't think?
What
you think there's an ulterior motive?
You see, let me tell you one thing. I told you there are groups of people that came up of the restructuring. The first one was very, very objective. The second one that is coming after there is this political equation, they are coming with their own interest. Some people wanted to be heard in Nigeria. Some people just come up with something controversial.
You don't want to exemplify each group by one or two individuals. No, maybe it's not the best thing to do.
It's not the best thing to do.
It's not the best thing to do.
But people know them.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a very Nigerian thing. We don't need to say, as our people say, you don't need to put all clothes on the clothesline.
People got married to women that are not of their tribal groups, and they are living well.
So that shows you.
Somebody in his own myopic interest,
yes,
is showing lack of tolerance.
Okay.
You understand? And they open. And I don't understand. Okay. Is it not self-serving?
And it's something that we as Nigerians are supposed to be able to decode. And we're going to have to try.
Nigerians are very sensitive.
Yes.
Nigerians, they are very, very sensitive.
Because people are...
Let me tell you one thing, Mr. Yori.
Sure.
Something happened, remarkable. Let me say it on air now. Something historical happened in Nigeria, which really moved my conscience. It made me to be a true Nigerian. I wanted to be identified as a Nigerian. I don't want to be identified with any geographical identification or ethnic categorization. Why is this? Chief MKO Abiola, when he contested, people that voted for Abiola most are from the north. They stood by him against their own son. Now this time around, Buhari came. And people that voted for Buhari stood for him materially, socially, morally, stood for this man to be. Mostly they are from the southwest. We knew it's an open secret. Money bars came, they refused to take the money. They say, this man is what we want. That means people really knew what they wanted. And people, what they're looking for is the governance, good governance.
It's a bit like the people of Turkey who resisted the military coup, even though it has been said that resistance of the military coup and protecting the democracy does not automatically translate into support of Erdogan.
So
that's another thread. But I see that Honorable Wali wanted to come in on this.
No, just to say that.
Sorry, sir. Do I have someone on the line?
Yeah. Hello?
Okay, hello. That's Mr. Sheson there from Alagbado. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Ayori.
Okay.
My contribution to the discussion you are having there is in support of a restructuring of Nigeria. We have all along come this way.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Sheson, I don't know if you appreciate the VP's comment that when we say restructuring, we have to make sure we are not vague about what exactly we mean.
Look, the VP is at the corridor of power at Abuja there. While he was in our midst as a common man, not in the corridor of power, he was speaking as well in that direction. But it's like something is at that Abuja that sort of take away the thinking of the people. You understand? That disassociates them from the feeling of their people. Look, we have tried the democracy that we are in. It has the history of a periodic election. And what do we have at the end of the day? It is whoever the beneficiary of power trying to play to the gallery or try to play a primordial role. We are not old enough to know what was happening in 1953 or whatever, when we have the kind of a government that allow for progress in all the regions.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? We had it, we read it. But why must we now continue to do it? It was the military that eroded. The military eroded the kind of structure that we all agree to operate as a country.
Do you feel, sorry for interrupting you, Sheson, do you feel, as the Vice President has said, that this restructuring issue is not something that should be written into the Constitution, that it should be decided politically amongst the parties? What are your thoughts on that before we go?
Hello. We are operating a written Constitution. We are not in Britain. I think the best thing is to revert. Let us revert to the basic. The basic was that we agreed to live together based on the Constitution that we had in 1953 or so, that the military took over from us.
All right then. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheson. I really appreciate you, but I've got to truncate your marvelous stream of thought. Thank you very much. Interesting point he's making.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
Interesting point that we operate, unlike Britain, a written constitution.
Yes, we do.
And therefore, it's not in this, people say perhaps that it's not when a man is grown, a left-handed man is grown, that he begins to learn how to use his right hand. Maybe there's something in that for you.
No, well, I mean, that is consistent with what I had laid out earlier. But also wanting to pick it from the 1953, I think, Macpherson Constitution, which he was referring to. Nigerian politicians, they had the London Conference, they had the regional conferences in all the capitals, in Kaduna, in Ibadan, and in Enugu, wherein they looked at all the options. And at the end of it, each region, in fact, recognizing the differences that could exist, still opted for a federal country, a federation, which is Nigeria, and which nobody is opposing, and which, of course, those who are opposed to restructuring must not use to scare anybody. Nobody is asking that there should be a dismemberment of the country.
Okay.
But we cannot keep on running on that all the time.
Okay.
It's just to create scarecrow.
Okay.
But it is important to say this, sir, that since 1953 and then the 1954 and the Independence Constitution, all other constitutions were military inspired.
Okay.
And they are imposed on us.
So
as
they're
a
not
people.
really of us.
They are not really
Even
of
though
us.
the lie is
So
told in it that
what
we the
would
people.
like to have is the regional constitution, which would enable, you know, the what you call the economies of scale.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many states now that cannot survive on their own, and working together within the regional umbrella will make it possible.
Okay. Ayo from Surulere, good morning and thank you for holding on.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Now, the truth is that Nigeria needs to restructure. There are a lot of injustice in this country. If oil were in one of the major tribes, Hausa, Igbo, and Yorubas, we would not allow this nonsense that is going on. The North has more local governments, they have more states, they have more representation. What is the use of a population that's not productive? We need to restructure. That's the truth. Nothing has worked since the last democracy. We had about 17 years of it. Nigeria has gotten worse. Every spectrum of our life. We said special education or special marks of people from the North. We've had this for over 35 years. A man that was born before that policy is married now, and we still maintain it. Why are we just like this? And our constitution is a lie. We, the people of Nigeria, did not come about any constitution.
Okay.
And righteousness exalts a nation.
Okay.
So why are we choosing not to be righteous? Why can't we just be honest?
Okay, Ayo, thank you very much. Our constitution, Alhaji Hassan, is a lie. Of course, we understand where that's coming from. We the people. It wasn't by we the people. And as you know, has been said by Honorable Wale Oshun, everybody knows that is a constitution that was prepared by the military, put on the table, and we are adopting it. Do you think, although I've also heard arguments that, wait, be that as it may, for goodness sake, the things within the constitution are good. Nobody can complain about very much of that. Have we operated it successfully according to the letter and the law, or no, is what is the decision they've come back with?
Look, we always refer to military as a bad system. And we cannot...
Well, it is an aberration
No,
from,
no, they
from
look
democracy.
at it as an aberration for democracy. But one thing is very clear. This military produce highly patriotic Nigerians that put Nigeria on a solid footings. And by the way, let us go down memory lane. Most of the politicians invited the military to come and take over. They invited the military.
Well, that's another problem with politicians.
Immediately, they lost out in the political calculus. They invite the military.
Yes.
And the only stabilizing factor that can come and stabilize the polity is the military.
Yes, because we've also heard it that no military can succeed without the civilian.
As I said earlier, look, this military produced people like General Murtala Mohammed, produced people like Obasanjo, produce people like General Muhammadu Buhari, and we are still calling this institution a very bad institution.
Okay, let me take it from Alhaji, no, not Alhaji, Comrade Mazi Okoroafo, calling in from Abia. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guests. Good morning, Mr. Yodis. Good morning, everybody in the studio. You see, gentlemen, restructuring Nigeria will not solve our present-day illiteracy or economic problems. Go for a referendum if Nigeria wishes. Will it solve the problem of greed? No. Will it solve the problem of kidnapping? No. Will it solve the problem of armed robbery? No. And other fights? No. The answer is no.
Will it solve any problem? Will it solve any problem?
It will solve, because let me take this example. If somebody said that the social Nigeria, divide Nigeria into 6, to me I was okay, divide into 8. Will it solve the problem? Because if you come to Eastern Nigeria, listen, a typical cross-river man and Akwa Ibom man, they had a problem. What was the problem? During Nigerian and Biafran war, what happened? There was what we call abandoned property, that Igbos left their property in Akwa Ibom, Akwa and ran back to their place. After the war, they went back to those areas. What happened? They said so their things are now indigenized, their property is sold by Igbos. Now, the other reputation, what are you restructuring? You go down to River State, the Niger Delta, name the state, you restructure. Are you saying that when you come down, you move down to Anambra? Even Anambra and Enugu man, they have their own differences. Or you come down to Middle Belt, to talk about Middle Belt and North Central. They have their own problem. Because if we didn't see all this great, you see what is happening at the end of the day. Now, we are just complaining.
Comrade, so what you are saying, if I understand you well, is that restructuring is not a priority for us.
See, the issue of the ground have not been solved. That is the issue. Now look at the state, look at the state level, at the federal level, every day. Now you come to a situation, you say that GG continue complaining of no money, but the same people will come back at the end of the day, they are selling money. Is that the same? This is not the issue. The issue is that we don't want to face our priorities first. Our major problem in this country that makes us have a lot of problems is that illiteracy. My brother, see, UNESCO said 58 years more, but I would say that 70 years more for Nigeria. Our problem is illiteracy. If we have not solved illiteracy, let us know exactly what we want.
Yeah.
Go to our schools, like what the guests were saying in the studio there. Look at Nigerian schools or Nigerian universities. What is happening? The school fees they pay in the north is different from the one they pay in the west and the one they pay in the south. Because you come to the north Nigeria, you have a university where they pay 15,000 naira, both accommodation, but you go down to it's 100 or something. What are you restructuring? Thank you very much. So others will have a population and make their own contribution. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day in the Lord. Of my name.
Indeed. Thank you very much. You just got about a minute left. But let me quickly ask you, Honorable Wale Oshun. He touched there on, he said, our problem, quoting him now, our problem is really illiteracy, by which I take the understanding that our problem is a lack of education on the issues, and therefore he's not sure that we actually understand what it is we really want.
But he would be surprised if even the I don't want to offend the sensibilities of people, but I can say this, that when Boko Haram started, it would have been a national quest for restructuring, a national quest. And this is the situation all over. You are having agitations, which is to say that there is a need for a devoted attention to addressing what agitates every part of the country, be it northwest, be it southwest, be it northeast. In each part of this country, there are agitations for changes, structural changes.
Okay. And so we should be seeking to address and resolve those.
Resolving. And that is, when you talk of restructuring, that is what you are talking all about.
We've run out of time, yes. but Alhaji Hassan, any closing thoughts? Because unfortunately, time is not on our side.
Honorable Wale Oshun made a very good observation. But let me be very, very clear with you. Agitation, there are criminal agitations. Let us differentiate.
Right next to the legitimate aspirations.
Thank you.
Just like we heard that Boko Haram, there was a religious Boko Haram, political Boko Haram.
Boko Haram is a criminal agitation. We knew how Boko Haram started. It started with Metazini and later metamorphosed to modern Boko Haram. And it now became an institution. And government now intruded into it and they turned it to an industry and they are making money over it. And you can see what is happening today with the Suki Gate. Do you need anybody to tell you who Boko Haram is today?
Alhaji Hassan, I think we're going to have to leave it there. It's one of those conversations that you can't really put 1 or 2 hours to. I mean, the guys at the Constitutional Conference took months. And I'm not sure that they are all satisfied that they exhausted it thoroughly. Nevertheless, for purposes of broadcasting, we're going to have to put it into these few seconds that we have been having a conversation about it. Hopefully, it will sort of challenge us mentally to really think about this matter and maybe come to a determination of what exactly we mean by restructuring, and also the whole matter of the honesty or dishonesty of it. There are all of these problems to be thought out, and I want to thank you very much, gentlemen. Honorable Wale Oshun, I want to thank you very much for the insights that you bring to bear and the perspectives you give us to consider. And also you, Alhaji Hassan Abdulaziz Sani, thank you very, very much. And also putting a face to the name. When we say Alhaji Hassan from Yeki, go on. Now we put a face to that Alhaji Hassan from Lekki. Thank you very, very much for coming as well. And thank you for sharing your perspectives as well on this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yori.
I'll be back tomorrow with a fresh edition of the program. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.